Hey everyone, Armando here, Armando's Exotic Zoo. We're in our garage today. This is where we have our redfoots, our leopards, and our box turtles. So, our redfoots are what we're going to be talking about today, Chelonoidis carbonaria. We've done like the cherry head before. Cherry heads are redfoots. We're just going to go a little bit more into it today. We practiced with our new format we've been working on for our Tort-Talks here. So I gave them a little bit of cactus just so they could be out walking around, give you guys a good look at them. See how they behave. You know, it's pretty cool. Get to look at them, see them in action, see our enclosure. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So our first thing we're going to talk about is where are they from. Cherry heads, they are from all of South America pretty much. Not all of it. There's certain parts where they're not from, but a big portion of South America. And there's different localities depending where they're from. They look different. You got your cherry heads and the Colombians and all different kind of things like that. That just look slightly different from each other, but they're the same species of tortoise. They're all redfoots. And then there's also, in the Caribbean islands, you'll find redfoots, and they're not too sure if they're like naturally just native from there or if they got carried over by people or by storms or however they got there. But there's redfoots in the Caribbean islands as well. So that's where they're from. Our next segment is how do they look. So our cherry head, or our redfoots I mean, the general look is going to be red and black, pretty much. They got a black carapace, mostly yellow plastron. This is Deuce. I think Deuce might be mixed with cherry head, but I was using him because he's got the red. But I'll show you some more of how they look here. But this is the general look you're going to get with redfoots. And as they get older, they lose the red head, it turns yellow, and that's your regular redfoot. Okay. Another locality, famous locality a lot of people hear about is the cherry heads. So here we've got Kiki. She's a good example of a nice Brazilian cherry head. Okay, you can see the marbling. They get a lot of marbling. They're really famous for that. There's other localities that get it as well, but the cherry heads get it a lot. They've got the nice red head. You can see that coloration, very nice. And they'll keep that throughout their life. It'll always be red. And the nice marbling on the bottom as well. And they got a very black plastron. Okay, so that's the cherry head. And then in our cherry head video, we showed a couple other ways you can tell the differences. So you can check that one out for that. Alright, so that's our cherry head. And then my favorite locality, it's pretty hard to get here. I skipped ahead. I was supposed to talk about Venezuelans next. But the Colombians. That's my favorite locality. I love them. They're awesome. They're just really nice. They've a lot of times got a lighter shell to like a coffee kind of brown. He's got like that more coffee kind of brown. And then they've got like a lighter skin tone. You can see the skin's very light. The yellow is very pale yellow coloration. And it's just very nice color. They're always yellow like that. And then some of them have blue eyes. Mine's not that cool though. But he's still awesome. This is Pablo. I love him. And then in the bottom here was something really awesome. They've got the yellow carapace, but in the middle they've got this black that looks like an exclamation point. That's pretty cool. I like that. So yeah, this is Pablo, my Colombian. This is one of my favorites. I love all redfoots, but the Colombians, I want to put together a group of these guys. And then the last locality I'm going to talk about is the Venezuelan. So this is Juan. And funny story, I got Juan because I thought he was maybe Colombian, but he kind of, Bill Murray from Redfoot Ranch, he told me he looks more Venezuelan. So we'll count him Venezuelan for now until I learn something different. But Venezuelans, they got more orange coloration. They're similar to the Colombians, so it's like kind of confusing, but it's like a little more orange coloration, sometimes yellow. You can see his head's a little more yellow, but then on his legs, that's pretty orange right there. So it's kind of cool. He's got the yellow. But see, this is why I feel like he could be Colombian, see? The Venezuelans are supposed to be all yellow, but he's got that Colombian type marking in there. So who knows? I hope he's Colombian, but it tells you about the Venezuelans a little bit. And these days, like so many of them, they could be mixed. You don't really know unless if the person really kept track with the lineage where they came from and things like that. But like Kiki for sure, Cherryhead, Pablo's a Colombian. Juan's my little mystery guy. I like to think he's Colombian, but who knows? So that's our how do they look pretty much for the most part. You can take a look there. It varies, like I said, all different variations, different localities. Some localities even share some characteristics. So it's a big variation. They're a lot of fun. Lots of fun. Our next one is size, which I probably should include with how do they look, but we're working on it. So our size, the average Redfoot is not this, he's still a baby, or a juvenile, but the average size could be 12 to 14 inches. Some of them get way bigger. Some you could see like 18-inch Redfoots. I've seen them pretty long. They get like that long, and it's crazy. They get pretty big. The biggest one they've ever found was from Panama, or Paraguay, excuse me, and it was 24 inches. So that is a massive Redfoot. That's like probably 4 times his size. So yeah, that's a big guy. Again, this is Pablo. The Colombians can be a little bit smaller usually, sometimes like 10 inches or things like that. And then size is going to vary on locality as well. Different localities, some are bigger, some are smaller. Kind of funny example here, Cherryheads are way smaller. So this is Lechuga. Lechuga is just as old as Kiki, but as you can see, much smaller. Much smaller. So your Cherryheads are going to be like, 8 inches, 10 inches, depending male or female. Sometimes males you might even see like 6 inches, like really small. So this is one of our little males here growing up. Lechuga. You can see the black plastron. Everything we talked about and how do they look. And then I don't have one to show, but another locality, like I mentioned, they're from the islands in Barbados. There's like a lot of giants. The giants are pretty well run over there. They like pretty big, 18 inches, 20 inches. You'll see them all over the place. Those are really big and really cool. There's also like Amazon Basin Redfoots. They're known to be pretty big as well. So yeah, all different variations in the localities from how they look even to their size. So they're pretty awesome. Alright, our next section here, our next segment is what do they like to do? So I call it that. It's kind of just their behavior, where you'll find them in nature, things like that. So with the Redfoots, what they like to do, their main favorite thing to do is sleep. They like to sleep a lot. They spend a lot of time sleeping, especially when they're babies. They sleep all the time. This is Ace. He's a very pretty boy. He's our first Redfoot, and he's also a Cherryhead. So yeah, they like to sleep a lot. They'll spend up to even 50% of the day sleeping and things like that. While the sun's out, they'll be sleeping, and they'll get up at some point to go look for food. But other than sleeping, what they like to do, they like to rest in water. They like to go in there. They'll get in all the way. They'll be their whole shell in there, and they'll just have their little nostrils hanging out where they can breathe there. You can see his little nostrils. They'll stick them out there where they can breathe. But the rest of them is fully submerged in the water. And they like mud holes. They love to wallow around in mud holes and just get in there and moisturize and cool themselves down on a hot day and things like that. And then they're very social tortoise. That's the reason why I liked them, why they were the first tortoise that I got, because they're very social. You can keep them together for the most part. And really, they get along pretty well for the most part. So I'm going to put him down for a second and grab someone else. Let's see. Oh, I got Deuce again. You can see why I named Deuce Deuce, because he's kind of like mini Ace there. So that's why I called him that. So yeah, for their social behaviors, they're pretty social. They like to share shelters. I'll turn over one of these logs and find 2 or 3 of them jammed up in there. We made them their tortoise sauna. They like to hang out in there. You'll find 5 of them in there. we got a cool video on that too if you want to learn what I'm talking about when I say tortoise sauna. It's kind of something I came up with here for them. So yeah, they like to share shelters. They'll leave a scent trail for other tortoises to find their shelter, which I thought was pretty interesting. When I was doing some research about them, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So like if one of them finds this nice shelter, they know shelters are hard to come by and things like that, so they'll leave a scent trail so the next one can find it. And you'll find them, they'll pack it out until they can't fit any more in there, which is kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. They like to be together. And they'll eat together. Like if there's falling fruit or maybe a dead animal, they'll all group up together and eat. When we feed them here, they like to all eat together. They don't really fight over food, which is pretty good. That shows kind of how they're social. Once in a while you'll get like bullying, especially in captivity. They'll like lay on the food so the other ones can't eat, but little things like that. They won't really hurt each other over food, which is cool. They don't fight over territories. They're not super territorial, like I already mentioned. They like to share their hiding areas and their shelters. The scent marking, people are really looking into the scent marking because they use that for a lot of things. That's pretty cool. One of the ways they communicate with each other is head bobbing. You'll see them, sometimes they'll come up to each other and they'll bob their heads around, and that's actually their way of talking to each other. And you can kind of tell sometimes if it's like being aggressive or just kind of just, you know, figuring things out. And sometimes they'll even follow each other around, which is pretty funny because Ace and Lechuga, when we used to only have 3 tortoises, we had Ace, Kiki, and Lechuga. They would all follow Ace around. He was like the oldest one, and Lechuga especially you would see following Ace around all the time. So they'll do that a lot, especially like a littler one will follow a bigger one around and things like that, or even all different combinations. You'll find males chasing males, males chasing females, females chasing each other. They just kind of like to all run around together and just be together. It's pretty awesome to see. They're in here walking around together. At the beginning of the video, you saw them all eating together, so it's really awesome. Alright, before we get into our last segments here, I got one of our little superstars here. This is Cyrus. She's beautiful. And she's an interesting one. She's super beautiful. You can see she's got marbling. She's got a bright orange head. I don't really know what she is. She's got the yellow plastron. She fits pretty much the Venezuelan or the northern kind of variations. But like I said, if the breeder you got it from didn't really keep track of the lineage, you don't really know what they are. So she could very well be mixed with, you know, different kind of things. But it's pretty awesome. So what I wanted to ask you here is, out of the localities we did talk about, which one's your favorite? You can drop that in the comments below and let us know which one of the localities was your favorite one. And we'll go ahead and keep on going here with what do they eat. So a big thing they eat is fruit. They eat a lot of fruit. And it's actually a big role they play in nature is dispersing seeds. They take the seeds, they eat the fruit, the seeds go inside of them, and then when they poop the seeds out in all different places, and then the seeds have like a little well start right there. They come out, they've got the nutrients around them from the poop, and their guts just really help the seeds get going. So like when I sprinkle the grass seeds, sometimes you'll find it growing super well because they'll eat the seeds and then they walk around, poop it out, and then it grows. So fruit is a big thing they eat, very important. They serve an important function in their ecosystem with the fruits. Like all other tortoises, they eat grasses, leaves, all of those things, succulents. And because they're omnivorous, they'll eat fungi, right, for protein. A lot of other tortoises, you don't really want to feed them mushrooms or things that's too much protein. These guys can take it. They eat carrion, which is like dead animals and things like that. They eat insects. I've given them different kind of mealworms and things like that before. They take all of that. So they're pretty fun to feed. You can feed them all different kind of things. And in nature, their diet is seasonal. In the wet season, when there's more fruits available, they're going to eat more fruits naturally. And then in the dry season, it changes towards other things, more insects, things like that. Whatever they can find, basically. And something pretty interesting I learned about tortoise digestive system is omnivores, their large intestine and their small intestine are the same length. And then herbivores, their long intestine is longer because it has to take a longer time to digest the more fibrous grasses and things like that the herbivores would eat. So like a sulcata or our leopard tortoises here, for example, they have a larger long intestine for digesting those grasses and things like that. So our last segment is how do we keep it, but since we're right here, you can see our thing, but everyone does it different, especially in Florida. They can live outdoors and things like that, so that makes it a lot easier. But as you can see here, if you wanted to keep them indoors, it is possible. It's pretty easy. A lot of times you're going to want a closed chamber enclosure, so you can check out like our Instagram and things like that. We've got all different enclosures we've done on there. But generally the idea, what we use is like a tote like that there that's upside down. I cut out the front and I cover it up with something, and we put them in there, and it has a lid on it so that everything's closed up. Helps you keep the humidity up, keep the temperature up, and raise a nice healthy tortoise. And then what we've done here is once they reached a certain size that we were happy with, which for us was 100 grams, we put them in here with the rest of them. And the reason it's not closed is because it's in our garage. We're in Florida, so the humidity generally is pretty high. And then you'll remember I mentioned they like to rest in water. They like mud pits, so we've got water bowls in there. Some of them are dry by now. They've been running around, but there's a water bowl. In the back there, that one's a little more muddy. I leave it that way because that's mud for them to get in there. They can play around with it. It helps with hydration of the skin and all of those things. They enjoy that. And then we have our sauna that we made. I'm not going to go too into it, but it's a sauna. You guys, you get the gist of that. We keep it nice and humid, nice and hot. We've got a video on that one. Like I mentioned, you can check that one out. It's nice. So this is how we keep ours. This is a 4x6 right here. We've got UVB lights. We've got our heat lamps, different sizes. So we got different temperatures. It's a little hotter here, a little bit cooler there. Obviously, everywhere else, they can get away from it. Inside of the sauna, there's a heat lamp. Kind of goes to being a sauna. But yeah, this is how we keep ours. You can take a look. We'll finish up with just showing you guys a little bit of how they do. Alright, thanks for watching, everyone.
Like, comment, subscribe.